Does women's sport or do women in sport get adequate media coverage? We ask why. We look at the impact soap opera and TV drama storylines have on audiences. Adze Uga, who's directed Zone 14, Home Affairs Isibaya, and others will be here for that one. On this World Radio Day, we visit community radio station Izwi Lomzansi. That's what's coming up today. Hello and welcome to Media and Society on SABC News, independent and impartial. My name is Rems Mabote. This is where we look at the intersection between media and audiences. This show is not complete without your say. Connect with us via our social media channels and share your views and concerns about how the media works and what we feed you. Hashtag SABC Media and Society and call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. South Africa was one of the first countries in the world to adopt the Brighton Declaration that aims to achieve gender parity in sport. It was first established in 1995, but almost 3 decades later, it seems life work has been slow. To check how familiar people are with women's sport, we went to the streets to find out if individuals we came across can easily name women's sports stars when compared to the men. The call to expose people to women's sports and women's sports stars is the duty of the media every weekend. And on various platforms, one is exposed to men's rugby, men's cricket, men's football, even men's hockey and water polo from South Africa and various countries and across Africa and abroad. We even see names like Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, Pitso Mosimane, and others trending on social media on various occasions. This could largely be because citizens see these men's sports stars in the media and they get to know them and then share views and opinions on them. Of course, we've seen Caster Semenya trending for various reasons. But how often does conversation move beyond Caster when she's competing or being blocked from competing? How often does the media take us to women's or girls' sport at grassroots level? Leading up to 2010's men's football, messages were all over the world, and you couldn't miss that. You had to be excited about the fact that South Africa was going to host. Cape Town is hosting Women's Netball World Cup next year, 2023. There's hardly any messaging anywhere in the media.
My favorite sports star is Morgan Gold. Well, I think because of the way that he transitioned from being a soccer player and now he's a coach.
The one that I used to know is Chloe Shabalala and Mercy, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. Yeah, that's what I know.
So any female sports star?
Tennis-wise, the Williams sisters.
I was actually considering saying Serena Williams because she's also another one who does it back-to-back without actually, but then she's not my favorite because Michael Jordan did it like many years, bro.
It's Caster Semenya. Yes. And yeah, she's my role model.
Let me think. Cat. It has to be, what's her name now? I forgot, the tennis player, Serena Williams.
To discuss media's coverage of women's sport is Lonwabo Nkohla, sports news anchor at Radio 2000. And I'm also joined by Netball SA President Cecilia Molokwane. The show is not complete without you. Please connect with us on our social media via hashtag SABC Media and Society. And alternatively, call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. Good morning, ladies, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Cecilia, let me start with you. You know, Nedbank as South Africa is ranked 5 in the world. That's a huge ranking. Do you think there is enough knowledge of that and coverage of that?
Not at all. We are struggling as women's sport and struggling for media to actually recognize us and to put us where we are. I mean, when we look at other sporting codes, I'll give an example of football. I don't know what is the ranking in the world, but I can tell you that netball is ranked 5th in the world. And for people to know more about football and not know more about netball, we can do whatever we want to do. However, if the media is not covering us, it's not putting us out there, it's not going to happen that we get the cover that we need.
Why do you think this is so? Why do you believe that the media would ignore women's sport and netball in particular that is doing exceptionally well? And better than men's football, by the way. I can tell you that you're doing much better than men's football.
It's really shocking, and to me, it's why this treatment? Because we are the second biggest federation in the country from football, and to me, that we are not giving the recognition that we want, and this is maybe because of we women. And you know, one thing that the mentality that the country and everybody has is you have to prove yourself first to be recognized as women, and this has to come to an end. Because to me, we need to work so hard to say we are here as women and recognize us. Whilst men can do whatever, can go to the World Cup and be beaten in the first round and not even make the quarterfinals, but it will be so much noise around them. I mean, you said it at the beginning that we're hosting the 2023 Netball World Cup. I mean, I'm wearing the T-shirt of promoting Netball Friday. I mean, we're saying everybody must wear this T-shirt on Fridays and promote netball. However, you will see that it will be a small portion of the country that does that. However, if it was rugby, if it was football, if it was cricket, and because of maybe the corporate world believes more in them than in women's sport. And that is one thing that is taking us backwards. For us to be out there and to do things that we want to do, we need the economic muscle behind us. And we don't have that much. I mean, netball has got few sponsors, which are actually giving us money, and we are thankful for the money they're giving us. But as netball is growing the way it's growing, at the pace that it's growing right now, that money is not enough. And I'm saying, why as women are treated the way we are? Because at the end of the day, we are the people. Look, for example, when we talk about a person who does the work in the house, is a woman.
Cecilia, football, cricket, and rugby have club or franchise sport, which then are spectator sport from that level that lead to national or provincial sport. Do you have that at netball? And would that be one of the reasons why you don't attract attention and therefore don't attract television or news or media attention?
Look, we've got a semi-professional league, which we call the Telkom Netball League, which is not enough. I mean, you want us to compete with the best in the world when they have serious franchise leagues. You know, we've got the Suncorp that is playing in Australia, where most of our SA players are playing there. We've got the Vitality League that is playing in England, which most of our players are playing there. We've got the ANZ, which is playing in Australia. And we don't have that professional league in Netball South Africa. And once we have that in South Africa, we know that the media will follow us. Everybody wants to know which team is playing, who are the winners, who are not the winners. And the thing that the three big federations, big in the sense that they are, that's why I'm saying big, because they're not bigger than us when it comes to BMI states, but big in the sense that they've got the muscles, they've got the money. When you look at them, they've got a dedicated TV channel whereby you can switch off and look at cricket at any time you want. You can switch on and look at rugby or football. You cannot switch off any TV channel and look at netball at the time that you want to look at. And that is also a step back for us, because for people to know about us, we have to be out there. And the people to take us out there is the media coverage, and we are not getting enough of that.
Well, Lonwabo, as a media person, sportscaster, you probably have better answers than most of us here. You've worked on production, you're also a presenter. How does sports stories and their order in the lineup get to be determined?
Mostly, I'll speak for myself personally. It's stories that are most important at the time, and I'll start with local stories. Local stories, and then the radio station will expect you to choose stories that will be most appealing to the listeners. But as a female myself who understands the environment we're in, I prioritize women in sport, and I always challenge other people to make sure that make a women's sports story the main story, the top story. When we say top stories today, can I say that Netball South Africa has done ABC, the ladies cricket team has done ABC, and those are the stories I'm leading with for the day. I have those in my bulletins, but however, if I were to look at my colleagues in the industry, you'll find that all they prioritize is international sports, number one, and then local stories follow. And I don't understand how you'll tune into a South African radio station or TV station, and the first story that you're going to see is the English Premier League. That makes no sense whatsoever. When the previous night, just as an example, the Proteas women had just beaten West Indies. When Kgothatso Montjane was in the Wimbledon final, I was having a conversation with a colleague who was only introduced to Kgothatso Montjane on Friday, and reading her profile, and that makes no sense whatsoever. How does South Africa, I mean, I was looking at the segment that you played, and people didn't mention Kgothatso, didn't mention Dene van Niekerk.
I'm worried about that, Lonwabo. If you're taking your own prerogative, is this not a policy thing? Who determines? I mean, there has to be somebody who determines that this is how we're going to cover things, and therefore, maybe even a policy.
If you look at what we do at the SABC, we broadcast for the people. And the policy is that you give stories to the people that are of interest to the people, that will educate and entertain the people. So when I'm going to do that, it is my responsibility to say, where are sports female role models? Do we have them in the country? Yes, we do. It is my duty within the mandate of the SABC to put them on my bulletin. And everything that I do will be in line with whatever policy I've been given as the SABC and SABC Radio. The policy does not prevent us from covering stories of transformation, stories of gender inequality, stories that will advance the country in different aspects, because we have a duty as broadcasters, and one of our duties is to make sure that we tell the stories that need to get to the people.
Cecilia, do you engage with the media? Do you go and sit with heads of television and heads of newspapers and talk to them about your sport?
We do. Actually, we do. Like I've challenged a lot of your media, and I said to them, look, we are here with a women's sport, and we need your buy-in in whatever we're doing. We cannot say we are not doing that, because we are, because in whatever we do, whatever press conference we have or whatever launch we have you guys coming, but you only come for that launch at that time. You don't come for all other things that needs to be covered. You just want the story at the time, but you don't, go and follow up the story. I mean, to me, it's a question of, why do we have to come to you? And why do you go to cricket? Why do you go to football? Why do you go to rugby? Why should it be us coming to you? Why don't you say there's women playing sport in the country? Why don't we go to them and find out what is going on around them and acknowledge them and acknowledge what they're doing? That is my problem, because every time, as I said, why should we prove ourselves as women? And why should we keep on knocking and not people doing the other way around?
We're going to have to pick up on that one shortly. So let's take a break and continue with this conversation after the break. But remember, please do join us. Connect with us on social media via hashtag SABC Media and Society. Alternatively, call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. Thank you for staying with us here on Media and Society. We continue with our discussion on the lack of coverage of women's sport in the media. Be part of the conversation on social media via the hashtag SABC Media and Society, and call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. Our guests this morning are Cecilia Molekwane, President of Netball SA, and Lonwabo Nkotla, Radio 2000 Sports Presenter. The discussion continues. Now, Cecilia, I need to go back to what you said before we took a break. Isn't it about money ultimately? Isn't it about the media want to cover things that will have more eyes on them, more readers on them, and therefore make money out of it? Hello, Cecilia?
It cannot be all about money. It shouldn't be all about money. It should be, making sure that kid, to me, it's the most important thing is making sure that kid that never thought that sport can take them somewhere, whether it's netball, it's rugby, it's cricket, it's whatever girls can play, it's athletics, that Casta is that, it's wheelchair tennis, that Khutazo Munjani is that, it's the what surfing, that Bianca is at. Any sporting code, if you put it out there as a woman compete, it gives that little girl hope wherever she's sitting at home. So it cannot be about money. So if it's about money, yes, we understand that, corporate world wants to make money and wants to be associated with other people. However, the main aim is how do we contribute towards the community, and how do we, firstly, to me, it's about eradicating GBV. When you do that, when you give a woman a chance to do something, you are actually saying we are fighting GBV in another way. You are actually saying we are not going to get early pregnancy in another way. We are actually saying we are not going to have girls that are going on these drugs and whatever abuse in another way. So it's not only about sport, it's about building the community and making sure that the community becomes a better community. And we groom leaders, we groom better people in life. So it cannot be about money. Yes, money is something that revolves around the world and builds up the world, but the intentions shouldn't be money. Money shouldn't be the key thing. But what do you do in changing a girl's life should be the key thing.
Let's take a call. We have Danisa calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning, Danisa.
Yes, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you. How are you? Please speak up.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see you. I used to see you on other places, like in a place maybe saving something, but I'm happy also to see you on your program.
Go ahead, mate.
My point is when we at school during primary level to O level to secondary level, we used to see what you call women sports, like also football. It doesn't balance when women are not doing enough, like they're not supported enough for their sporting. I think that way maybe we have to consider, everyone in this world has to consider that women, if they can be supported to their sport, it will maybe give us a sort of a balance of enjoying sport. By myself, on my own side, I used to say, why almost more of the time we find women not being seen on the screens? To have them maybe to have a program which is showing maybe being given a support.
Danisa, thank you very much for the call. Nonabo, do you think that it's hard to sell women's sport to audiences?
It isn't, and of late it has been proven that it isn't. I mean, if you look at the UK, the Women's Soccer League and the 100 in cricket and in football, they have I think about 39 million viewers that have watched the most recent tournaments. And just to add on to what Ms. Cecilia was saying, on top of the social responsibility, when money has been invested, the returns are starting to show. In these two competitions that I'm talking about, where they would say people don't watch women's football, they've tested it and they've shown that no, actually the interest is there. But the trick is in putting it up there so that people can actually start watching. But if we don't put it up there, people won't watch. People won't know that, okay, these are the fixtures that are coming up this weekend in this tournament. Banyana's playing in this tournament. The interest is there. We must just be bold enough to make the decision to put the women in sport on our television screens and in radio. And we're seeing around the world, in Australia, 11 million views in the 100, in whichever country where they've done it. I mean, if you look at teams in Europe, football teams in Europe have female football teams. But you come to South Africa, we have to be challenged by CAF to put teams before we're able to enter the CAF Champions League. We have big brand teams that don't have female football teams. How does that work? How are we saying we are the biggest team in Africa, yet you don't have a female football team?
Cecilia, could government play a role? Is there a possibility that maybe that's the missing link? Because if I listen to Lonabo's examples, I can only guess that in those countries like the UK and Australia, there would have been a lot of investment done, public investment, to develop women's sport and make sure that it gets as much coverage or equivalent coverage as possible with men's sport. Could there be a need for government to put in more money into development of this?
Definitely, definitely. And let's not compare ourselves to the first world countries. The corporate world believes in putting more money into, I can tell you, the Suncorp Netball League that is playing in Australia. It's a franchise run by people from corporate world and a very well-run franchise whereby some of our players are earning more than $1 million a year in Australia, that I can tell you. So let's not even compare us to those. But I'm saying government should play a major role in making sure that the influence they give to the corporate world to say, we can do up to this much. However, you should come in and help us in making sure that women's sport is taken serious and is covered. And I'm challenging SABC. I'll challenge you. I cannot sit here and talk on SABC and not challenge you to say, where is a women-dedicated channel in SABC, whether for netball, even if you can mix us, because you know we want that exposure. Put netball, put football, put rugby, put cricket, put athletics, put everybody in one channel that say, this is a dedicated SABC channel that it covers all women's sport in the country. If we don't start somewhere, nothing will happen. Let me challenge SABC to start with that, because it's a government entity.
I was going to say I'll pass on the message, but I'm sure they're watching. Does this affect, does the lack of media coverage affect the growth of your sport?
It does, tremendously it does. Because some people don't know netball, don't know what netball can do for them, how it can change life. Remember, your kid can play netball and they can get a bursary, a full bursary to university to study for free. And your kid can play netball and get, you know, to be called up in Australia to play professional league, which we want to turn in South Africa. So it's that lack of knowledge and lack of exposure that makes people not to know more about us. And remember, if we are not out there in the media, we are not seen. That's why one of my hashtag modes in Netball South Africa, I say, hashtag making netball fashionable. We want it to be fashionable, not in the sense of fashion of what you're wearing and whatever, but for everybody to know about netball. Every corner of the country, every person, even Ugogo Osemakaya, she must know about it. You know, everybody must know about it to say, I did not have the chance to see netball on TV. This is my chance to see netball on TV. It cannot only be that when you see netball on TV, is whether we are launching, we are doing something like a TNL, and then it's done and nothing else is said. Netball is there every day. It's played every day. Netball is played at schools.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. I need to take a call. Anonymous, calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I'm calling from Cape Town. I want to say something to Cecilia and other women in our country. You know, talking about netball, I play netball. I played netball as a child. But I would love to say to the women in our country, we are 50% or more in our population. But what are women doing? Are we uniting? Let us unite against, let's you know, the crying baby attitude, it must end now. Women must say, okay, fine, nothing is coming our way. What is it that we are doing? What can we do as a united front, as women, from all fronts, not only in sport, but also in everything around us? I think something can happen, because I do know that if women are united, like the women in 1956, they stood up united and did something and made a call. That is being celebrated even today. So women in sport, women everywhere must stand up and say, sponsors, this is what we can do. By the way, you know what? we raised each and every person that is in the boardroom was raised by a woman. Each and every person who is very
Anonymous,
good
I'm gonna have to cut you short.
administration has been raised by a woman. So let us stand up and be united and say, we are women, we need support. But this is what, let's lead. Let women lead.
I gotta move, my sister. Thank you very much for the call. Cecilia, is there a point there? Could there be maybe a new way of doing things and not depending on the old ways to get same results?
Basically, netball has grown in the past 4 years since we took over office. I'm sorry to say what we have done in netball, but we've grown netball so tremendously in the past 4 years. Netball never used to be what it is right now. And what I can say is we saw that we were doing the same thing the same way every year in, year out, and we were expecting the same results, which is insanity. And we said we must go out of the insanity and do things differently. As you see, we have done things differently, and now, hence, we are even recognized to host the 2023 Netball World Cup. So I can't say that we are not taking a step forward, we are not doing something better. We are doing something, step by step. Rome was never built in a day. I mean, it's been 4 years now in office, and we can point a lot of things that we've done to change netball and to change the landscape of netball. I will tell you that you wouldn't be calling a president of Netball South Africa, talking to her like the way you're talking to me now, because you believe that there's something that netball is doing right, and you want to know what is that netball is doing right. Hence, netball these days is covered, even though the coverage is not what we wish to be, but we want it to be more than what it is. However, we should also be thankful. We shouldn't only complain that netball is not covered. Yes, it's covered, however, not to the adequate, methodologies of what we want it to be. Because to us, it's, yes, the little coverage we have, it's little. We want not little coverage, but full coverage of our sport.
Excellent. Lonabo, could there be something we, as media people, could do better in coverage of women's sport? And mostly, I'd like you to challenge us men in covering women's sport.
There's a lot that we can do. We have a big responsibility as the media to control the narrative where covering women in sports is concerned. As I said earlier, that instead of putting forward something like the English Premier League, put in a story of Banyana Banyana. The women's cricket team is going to the World Cup in New Zealand rather. Is anyone talking about it? It's not only is it a responsibility, a social responsibility, but it's a responsibility that will cancel a lot of social ills. That's what we benefit. We benefit that, but also we benefit economically as well. We have more women that are getting salaries if we do that. It's bold. Some moves have to be bold because managers will challenge you and say, no, but people don't care about Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. They care about Mamelodi Sundowns, the men. We have to challenge our authorities and say, no, actually, that's not the truth. But even if they are, I need to bring the story forward and say, hey, guess what? There's this team too that has been doing well. We need to be bold enough to tell these stories that have to be told.
Should we have more conversations in newsrooms? Should we have a desk where we sit down and converse about these things and challenge ourselves and ultimately get to a point where it's no longer an issue to cover women's sport, that it becomes normal?
We speak so much about transformation while we're having the transformation conversation, and we've seen the changes. If you look at our cricket and rugby teams, for example, we're seeing the representation. Now we need to add gender equality in our conversations and start seeing that change as well. Our newsrooms need to lead the change that needs to happen in women in sport coverage.
Cecilia, let's get to the fun part. We've been having a tough conversation. Let's have some fun. Are we ready for 2023?
Definitely. I mean, I'm wearing my Netball Friday T-shirt, and it's a Sunday, and I'm proud to wear it on a Sunday to say we are ready as Netball South Africa. We are ready as the 2023 Netball World Cup board. you will see a lot happening. I mean, we have advertised the positions for various people to start working in the office, which will be open very soon in Cape Town. We'll start rolling. In this month, let me not say much, however, a lot of announcements will be made.
This is the time to do PR, Cecilia. That's exactly what we're talking about today.
No, I can't say much on those ones. Unfortunately, I can't say much on those ones. Wait for the press release. Wait for that press conference.
Going to ignore your press release, Cecilia. You've got a chance right now. But anyway, I'm listening to you. Don't say I didn't tell you that they will ignore that press release. But let's take a call. Sibongile is calling us. Good morning, Sibongile.
Good morning. You're speaking to Sibongile from Alexandra. I'm a little bit disappointed about women football or sports in women in general. Last week, we were told, I saw it on the TV, we have to support women football, uniforms Friday. I went through all the shops. I couldn't get a uniform, like I needed a bib and a netball uniform. I couldn't get it in the stores. I was shocked. And then number two, this one goes to the government. In Alexandra, for example, San Kopan, there is a football pitch, there is no netball pitch. You go all around most of the areas, accessible to most of us. There are no stadiums for girls, netball stadiums, but only football stadiums. Where does the society put us? This is really, really concerning. And this one goes to Cecilia. Where can we buy the Friday support for? Which she said, which store can we go? Okay. Because we couldn't even find a bib.
Thank you, Spo. Let's, I think Danisa is back. One more take, Danisa, quickly.
Yes, and also to...
No. Hello, Danisa?
Yes. What I'm trying to say is that the Minister of Sports and Culture, I think he has to consider women more sport of netball, because this world needs that all about the whole world. We consider everything. We need this sport to be seen on screens. And also, I have to say, thanks to the person that was who's standing for women in netball. And also, can we tickets for the women, so that otherwise, even us, people outside here, we should wear them so to campaign for the women.
Yeah. Danisa, thank you very much. One line, Cecilia. What Sibongile said does matter, doesn't it? That there are no facilities even for women to play sport in the township. What more than when it has to go to provincial and national levels?
It kills me inside, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think we are the 5th ranked country in the world, and we don't even have a netball arena in South Africa. And it's shocking. Hence, we cannot host the big monsters of this kind of netball, like Australia, and England, and New Zealand. When we have to go and hire an arena, we play millions, which we don't have, just to get that arena for us to play in there. It's killing that we've got girls playing in rural areas and we don't have facilities there. Now, this is where I blame the municipalities to say they've got an MIG grant. I mean, they've got an MIG grant. What are they doing with the MIG grant? Why are they not focusing on women's sport and working together with the Department of Sports and Culture and working together with their provincial Department of Sports and Culture and their locals to make sure that we've got those netball courts? Right now, it's the Legacy 2023 Netball World Cup. We are unrolling netball courts in the country, but we cannot unroll those courts everywhere and for everyone in the country. However, we need the buy-in of SALGA to say, SALGA, we want to come here, and also challenging SALGA to say, SALGA, I need a meeting with you. As the president of Netball South Africa, maybe talking for other women's sport, I need a meeting with you to say, you are the people that should support us from local level.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I know you don't like that the media runs out of time. But thanks very much, Cecilia Molekwane, President of Netball SA, and Lonwa Bonkotla, Radio 2000 Sports presenter. When we return, we discuss how or if TV soap opera and drama storylines impact societies. director of many movies and dramas that include Isibaya, Mrs. Right Guy, Home Affairs, Zone 14, and others. Adze Uga is ready for that one. Thank you for staying with us here on Media and Society. During the COVID-19 pandemic, TV ratings went up. SABC's One Uzalo saw over 11 million viewers, which was the first time it had ever happened in the history of any television show in the Southern Africa, Southern Hemisphere, actually. This then suggests that audiences still have a connection with TV storylines. We've seen the melodrama of soap operas start conversations in offices, homes, and other spaces, like when Seven Dilan had an interracial relationship between a white African woman and a black man. There was the same-sex relationship of Senzo and Jason in Generations, the first time it had ever happened between two black characters on South African television. Let's take a look.
Over the years, mass media has been known to influence the social behavior of society. It is known to impact how society sees the world and how they behave.
Tupac! Tupac Shakur!
Therefore, television, film, and drama storylines can be seen as some of the most influential tools used to influence the behavior of audiences and society at large.
Skip on it. You said you don't blame me for Linda making the changes to that.
I don't.
Then why the hell are you...
This is the first same-sex kiss to be broadcast on South African national television, and naturally, it caused an uproar. It was the first time a South African soap opera storyline had two black men in a same-sex relationship. At the time, the TV relationship was a topic of discussion in many settings. The scene and storyline largely positively changed how society views homosexuality.
All I wanna know is how do you feel when you with her?
Fast forward to 2019. Viewers of SABC2 soap opera Seven Dilan had mixed feelings after the African soapie featured a scene of an interracial kiss. This was the beginning of an on-screen relationship that involves actress Karina Nel, who portrays Alexa, and Nicholas Nkuna, who plays Fikani. The characters are now married. It became a talking point for many because of South Africa's race dynamics and the country's history of apartheid. In West Africa, Nollywood has made films that appeal to a broad audience, and Nollywood has continued to follow a similar pattern that influence and reflects society at large. This is according to Nigerian film writer Semi.
I think I'm the one you've been waiting for.
More often than not, the stories are about what's going on. The stories about what could be. So I would like to think that there are people who are telling stories about how the country could go, but you need your audience to hear the story. So you can't be writing in a vacuum. You can't be creating in a vacuum. You need your audience to hear the story. And if you're writing stories about how the country could be and you're not getting the audience, or you're missing the story, or you're telling from a different point of view that does not take into facts what the situation on ground is, you're missing your point. You're missing the point. The point is to direct. If that's what you're doing, you're trying to direct people. And if you're doing that by taking in points of view that do not consider the local environment, that do not consider the everyday man, the everyday woman, the everyday child, then you're missing the point.
Joining me to discuss this is Adze Uga, film and TV director of popular shows like Society, Zone 14, Isibaya. Please be part of this conversation. Call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. Hashtag SABC Media and Society on Twitter. Adze, your work as director is to interpret what the writers have on paper. I'm sure I'm right on that one. But do you ever have a feeling that, at some point, audiences might not like the interpretation that you put into the work of the writer?
Thank you for having me on the show, Rams. The beautiful thing about the creative process is that it is not an exact science. Most writers believe that they are plugged in and they have their fingers on the pulse of society and they know what people are dealing with, and therefore they try to reflect and capture that in the scripts that they write and the storylines they generate. Most of the times, they hit the mark more than they miss it. But it's always a gamble, but one easy litmus test is to basically, bring your microscope down on what you as a writer or as a TV content creator believe society needs. What is that thing that society is yearning for? What is it that the majority of human beings are dealing with? Because at the end of the day, television and film is a numbers game. It's about, getting people to watch, getting people to engage, because that is how you measure your success, actually, content is a product, just like a cold drink or a loaf of bread that you want many people to consume. And for you to be able to come up with what you believe will move the market, per se, you have to have an idea of what is it that people need, what is it that people are yearning for, what is it, what are those gaps in their lives that they want to fill, and you come up with storylines and characters that you believe speak to that. And when you do that, chances are, yes, you will get a lot of people saying, oh, this speaks to me, this resonates with me, and you generate talkability, and of course, it spreads like a wildfire and it becomes a hit. If it doesn't, well, you try again next time.
How much of a role do audiences play in determining or in helping you direct what you work on?
Look, it's all about the audience at the end of the day, so it's not about you as a creative. Even though you're a creative person, and you have your egos, you have your own perceptions about life, you have your own worldview. What makes you a successful creator in terms of storylines and creating content is how plugged in and connected you are with the generality. And I always like to think that as much as you need to, escape and go to somewhere quiet and come up with ideas, you also need to connect with human beings. You need to be a sponge, soaking up every kind of strata in society, because that will help you more or less shape and form a world that you believe the audiences can relate to. So audiences are actually key, and you can't write in a vacuum, as the previous interviewee mentioned. You have to have your finger on the pulse of what people need and speak to that need in your storylines. And that is the only way to guarantee success. So audiences are the beginning and end of it all.
What storylines of the work that you've produced, worked on, directed, have created more conversations in your view, and why do you think this is so? Give me one or two. I mean, we don't have the whole morning.
Well, look, it's interesting that, in your recap, you showed the storylines, of the interracial relationship and the same-sex relationship, in Seven Line and Generations. Love is a big issue. Love is literally, at the top of everybody's agenda, which is weird because you would think that love is simple and love has been over-romanticized, but love is something most people don't have, not in the way that TV and film, presents it. So a love story always seems to generate a lot of attention from audiences, and it really doesn't really matter, the demographics of those individuals. It's really about, how do you deal with being accepted? How do you deal with being rejected? How do you cope with being enough for the person who you want to attract, or who you want to please, who you want to spend the rest of your life with? So love, like in Zone 14, casting my mind back, there was a very, very transgressive relationship between a character and his stepmother, and as taboo as that may seem, that storyline generated a lot of traction during that time. fast-tracked to many years later, Society, which was also an SABC One product. It was about 4 women dealing with lives and loves, and the most propulsive storyline in that particular TV series was the storyline of 2 young women who were in love with each other, and they were battling the issues of how they were going to be accepted in society based on their affections for each other, which are perfectly natural. But we live in a society that has defined sets of norms and expectations, and you either fall into that or you don't. And when you don't, it becomes a topic.
I need to ask you this. Do we determine what the audiences want in reality and then present it to them as if that is what they want?
Rams, I would like to believe that is the case. The basic fundamental of starting would mean doing exactly what you said, to give the audience what it is that they think they want, but a real creative person, somebody who has transcended the art form, will give them more than they bargain for. And that is actually the key. People don't want to see worlds that are too distant from them. They want relatability. They want to be able to see themselves in the storylines and in the characters that they see on screen. Because fundamentally, all of us are the same. It doesn't matter whether you're white, black, rich, poor. We are all the same, and our needs, of course, they may vary. I'm sure you've heard of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whereby the majority of individuals are dealing with trying to just, put food on their tables and have shelter and clothing, and then, of course, as the pyramid, goes higher and higher, you find those who want, safety, security, then, of course, those who want love, and then those who are looking for, the meaning of life. But fundamentally, we're all the same, and it doesn't really matter whether we are from the same continent. And a writer and a storyliner, and their job is to tap into that commonality, because the truth of the matter is that there is no art form that is as universal and all-inclusive like the art form of motion picture, whether it's for a film, a soapy, a commercial.
I'm out of time, so I have to thank you very much this morning, Adze Uga, for being our guest. You are film director and television director. It is World Radio Day, and community radio stations play an important role and foster important conversations in the communities they serve. On this World Radio Day, we visit Izwi Lomzansi, community radio station in Durban. Let's take a look.
My name is Vela Kulu. I'm the station manager of Izwi Lomzansi radio station.
Ihora lesibili ntambama umsakazo Izwi Lomzansi FM yaqhubeka nokuba ngumbelo ogwanzile engxenyeni ezahlukene zezwe.
We make sure that all our programs are based on the issues that affects our communities that we serve. We make sure that all members of the community are participating in our radio station by involving them in planning programs and involving them in terms of governing the station as well.
Sithatha ama-calls ukuthi abalaleli bethu bathi luphi udaba namhlanje olubahlabe umkhwele.
My name is Nobuhle Ndlovu. I'm a radio presenter, which I started as a content producer where I arranged the show.
To a talk show radio station, and then what the people like most and what annoys the people most, and then we tackle those issues, and then we make it a point that we become relevant.
Into engithatha kusona izinto ezayikhulunywa kusona kwakhulunywa ngezinto ezithinta mina nomphakathi.
We are well connected with our listeners. We engage with our listeners, and being on Izwi Lomzansi, I could say it's a great opportunity.
Isona station engingathi uNkulunkulu kushuthi wayenama plans empilweni yami ngoba ngase ngikwenze konke engangithi mhlambe kuzongihilisha emphefumulweni, but kodwa ngokuhlangana kwami nestage Izwi Lomzansi, i treatment engangikuyona i depression ngangibona ingasebenzi kodwa ngosuku engahlangana ngalo nezilomzansi ngathola ukulapheka.
Angifuni mina ukuhlukanisa ubaba usobukwe nephisi.
Ngekukhola ukuthi ngangihamba ngemarenki ngiyotshela drive ukuthi hayibo ngicela la izilomzansi ngizenzela mina ama business card ngibanike ngifike ngishintshe ngibe eTexini ngithi umuntu ashintshe isiteshi adlala izilomzansi.
Lo ongakacaci ukuthi i-basic income grant izoba khona na. Sizothatha abalaleli bethu ngaphambi babe babili ngaphambi ukuthi sithathe ama voice notes. Nangumlaleli wethu ngena umsakazo yizwi sawubona.
We have open line where audiences they talk whatever they want to talk about that relates their lives and which affects their areas or the places where they are living in. So our audience now and then every time they are part of the station.
Into engithanda ngesiteshi ukuthi siyabasiza abantu. Abakhethi ukuthi umuntu mayifikile nenkinga yakhe mhlambe baqale bebheke mase fikile nje umuntu bafike bemsiza umuntu ngalonto leyo ayidingayo.
Siwumndeni kulesi stage kahle kahle. Siwumndeni ngoba noma ngabe kuthiwa yiphi inkinga evelayo. Ngisho kuthiwa khona ohambile ngisho kuthiwa siyabambana siphuthume lapho senze konke esifanele sikwenze sinike isiteshi esinothando.
This station is for the community by the community. So that is the purpose of Izilomzansi or the community radio station per se, to cover all issues that affects the community.
It's a great radio station because we speak the language of the people. We don't come with jargon words and all those things. And then it's community driven.
When you think, you know, that particular presenter or journalist or reporter you have is matured enough to serve the community, you pride yourself with that particular personality. And then the bigger stations will come and snatch that person from you.
Ngakuthandi mina mhlawumbe ngingafisa ukuthi mhlawumbe umphathi akwenze mhlawumbe ukuthi uma khona mhlawumbe umsakazi mhlawumbe ohambayo noma khona umsakazi mhlawumbe elivini esitshele mhlawumbe hayi umsakazi othile useyahamba umsakazi othile elivini because kuyamphazamisa umsakazi osakazayo ukhipha itopic umsakazi yabo ngena umlaleli ubuza ukuthi wayaphi umsakazi ukuthi.
Some listeners are very violent to each other. They would call and insult each other, and you have to stop that.
We are not made for profit making. We are made to serve the community.
Thank you for watching and participating on Media and Society on SABC News Channel, independent and impartial. From me, Rems Mabote, and the team, goodbye and God bless.